You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Real quick before we get started, I wanted to mention that we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of the Successful Screenwriter Podcast with a huge giveaway. This is awesome. We have a ton of prizes for you, from mentorships to swag, and you can enter it absolutely for free. All you have to do is visit the Successful Screenwriter Facebook page and click on the giveaway tab, or go to thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/podcast. Now, you can enter multiple times too, but keep an ear out this episode for the secret code, which you can get 5 free entries with. All right, welcome to the podcast. I have a really cool guest today. Actor, writer, director, Christopher Soren Kelly. Christopher's been in Infinity Chamber. He was also in Ink, which is an awesome, fun indie film. And he's also got some projects coming out on his own. We're going to get into his process a little bit on filmmaking. Christopher, thanks for being on.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. So when we get started on this, I just want to kind of get your origin story of what brought you into filmmaking.
Yeah, I wish there was a simpler story. I would say that I am, my origin story is more as an artist. My mother was a writer, my stepfather was a writer, my grandfather was a writer. I grew up in a sort of artsy family. She painted, we were in a like my grandfather would make us do plays in the summer that we would record on a VHS tape.
Wow.
And so I would make little movies with my cousin, and I was always writing, I was drawing, I've always just been into creation. I went to grad school I went and got a PhD in philosophy, but during that I wrote a novel and then I made a movie. So I just have always been creating. And so film is just, and I was making videos when I'm a very, very young kid, but I think writing is my, I'll always be writing.
Yeah.
And then, I got into acting while I was in grad school, and that's sort of, actually acting is really how I got into the film world.
Yeah.
I was a writer. I've done novels. I've done lots of short stories. I've done lots of little things, but the writing sort of shifted over to film when I became more of a film actor.
Well, I think every actor eventually ends up wants to write their own part, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, that there's a certain point when you're out here and you're like, well, acting is the worst job, pretty much.
Yeah.
I actually am not joking. There was a U.S. News and World Report. I remember picking it up, and it was like rating the jobs in America by quality of life, and there were 200 jobs rated, and actor was 200th. And
oh my goodness.
We can go through the reasons why. If you're a famous actor, it's different, of course, but 99% are not like that. So
right, of course.
So if you have the ability to write yourself a role that you actually want to do, it's such a blessing if you're an actor. So yeah. And my short film Chasseur, which was probably is the first thing that I made lots of things before that. It was the first thing I would want anyone to look at. Was written entirely as a performance piece for me. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, I was first introduced to you in Ink, which I thought was an incredibly touching fantasy, mind-bending kind of a world that was created, and you brought a lot of heart to that part. And you got to play like a multiple dimensions of the same character, which is really cool. And then again, discovered you in Infinity Chamber, where you carried the entire film on your shoulders, which is incredibly difficult to pull off as an actor. So when you're coming in to a part, other than the fact that, it's great to work, what are you looking for?
You mean, what am I looking for in order to do the part well, or choosing that part as opposed to something else?
Exactly. I mean, what sings to you? What makes you interested in a character and in the script?
I mean, at this point, I would like to I want to do something that I haven't done. That's
Yeah.
that's really what it is. I mean, yes, of course, there's a business side of everything, but if I'm excited about something, it's because that's going to be a challenge for me. That's going to be something I'll have to work on. Obviously, Infinity Chamber was a huge challenge for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, and I've been very fortunate. Again, I've worked at a very low budget level, but I've been in a lot of things I'm really proud of, and got to do if I did a good job and made my reel, it would just be a wide variety of characters, and I'm really, really happy about that.
Yeah. I think that you bring a lot of range and a lot of emotional depth to a script, and I think that's pretty important. So you look for you look for things that are going to push you as an actor and experiences that you haven't had to deal with yet, right?
Yeah, experiences, but there could be technical things too, like a dialect or some kind of body thing that's different. Or
okay.
Yeah, it could just also be that the role is going to be physically challenging in a unique way, or there's something that's like,
Gotcha.
oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
And so you've been writing, so you've written novels. Have you dipped your toes into screenwriting?
Oh yeah. No, I'm a screenwriter. So my first feature film is out now. It's called The Tangle.
Okay.
And it's on Amazon right now. So yeah.
Oh, very good. And so you wrote that, was that a shared writer's credit, or was that all just you?
Just me. Yep. Just me.
Oh, what's the inspiration for The Tangle?
I'll just give you the log line. The Tangle is the internet's gone into the air, and these little nanobots that float everywhere, and you've got a hard drive in your brain, and violence is impossible. Everybody knows everything where it is, and there's a murder that happens, and it's kind of a murder mystery.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's a very I would say it's a science fiction film. It's very geeky, but it's also an art film in ways. The language is very heightened. So they're talking in a very noirish, slangy, poetic dialogue.
Are we talking like Sorkin-esque?
It's like Sorkin meets Brick kind of thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that's
fun. Brick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone, but it's for certain people. If you're into something that's a little smarter and it's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, neo-noir is definitely a niche, but if you're into that niche, then it sounds like this is absolutely the right movie. For you.
If you're into that or sci-fi, talking sci-fi, not special effects sci-fi,
right?
Then yeah,
more heady stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
So, do you find a genre you prefer to work in?
I do. What I say is I like. This is just true of what I like to write and also what I like to perform in. Is things with a fantastic element. That's what I say. So science fiction is one, but it could be fantasy, but it could be like magic realism, or my short film Chasseur is about a man who's hunting the devil. I don't know what genre you'd put that in.
Interesting.
Another short film is just about a man, dealing with his addict ex-wife, but there's two versions of him, like a devil and an angel on his shoulder, and whether they're real or not, there's just like a fantastic element. So I like there to be something that's sort of twisting the rules of reality.
Yeah, and having a bit more of that art into it. It sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, the art of it is what gets me going. Yeah, absolutely.
I gotcha. Well, that would make sense now, looking at things like Ink, which was really, it's a fantastical in nature.
Yes, absolutely.
And I didn't even realize that you were playing the creature for a while until I was like, like, oh my God, it's the same actor. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's great.
So I know that when it comes to screenwriting with myself, I find myself, when I get on a gig, I end up growing a lot as a person. I'll learn bits and parts about me that I didn't expect were there, or get in touch with aspects of myself that I have to like kind of deal with in the middle of a screenplay. Have you found that with your writing, or have you found that with your performances?
That's interesting. I think that's true, but I guess I'm not as conscious of it as you are. I would say that I teach meditation, and I'm sort of always on a journey of working through stuff.
Right.
So I guess it doesn't feel that different, but of course it's true. Absolutely. I mean, finishing this film, I edited this film as well. It was a long process, and I directed it. And so
Wow.
there definitely were stuff I had to work through with that one. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I think that's probably true, but I'm not as conscious of it because it sort of is a constant process for me.
Right. So
Yeah.
you're always at it. No, I end up kind of just living life as it is normal, and then I'll write a script or I'll get on a gig.
And you get like heightened.
Yeah, I get kind of more aware of it, and then eventually, I can be like, yeah, I've been in tears before writing, because you're writing a powerful moment, and then it hits you, and then you are forced to process it, which is, it's pretty crazy to end up like, willingly do that to yourself, where it's way easier to just to go and chill and hang out and not have to worry about these things.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up. It's definitely more obvious with acting, and but again, I think it's because, even it's not only because I'm doing the meditation stuff, but also because I'm always creating something. So it's just sort of nonstop. And as an actor, there's definitely times you're like, oh God, do I want to feel this right now? Like,
Right.
do I want to do this right now? And it's clearly bringing something up when that happens,
Yeah. Do you find in your performance, like, you take yourself to the places mentally that characters do? Because I know there's a couple of schools of thoughts with some actors. They will just put on the guise of being sad, they'll put on the guise of being happy, just to emote for the camera, right, so the director can get the shot. But I know there's other actors that they have to get into that headspace. So what is your approach?
So I would say, let's put on one end of that scale the technical. So technical is like what you're talking about. Like Meryl Streep, we think of as a technical actor. Again, I don't think anybody's pure one of these, but just like really able to, through gesture and body language and rehearsal, like just nail exactly, generate the response that she wants.
Right.
And then there's method on the other side, and it's just like, I'm going to, like Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm going to be
Abraham Lincoln
for the next year and a half, walking around in Starbucks. And so I was trained, my formal training is in Meisner, which is a little bit in between the two of those. Okay. And I think all good actors do a bit of both, honestly. I think there's very few good actors that are purely technical, including Meryl Streep. I'm sure she's really emotionally there in a lot of ways. But in Meisner, what you do is you create an as if. You imagine a circumstance that would give you the emotion that this circumstance is giving you. You don't go to your memory. So there's some people are like, I'll go live that horrible thing that happened to me.
Right.
You just generate an imagined circumstance, but that would do it for you. Like, my grandmother's been kidnapped. And then you're like, what would that do? And that's sort of the basis of the emotional generation. But yeah, I definitely believe it's not always true. You don't always get there, but 99% of the time I would want to be feeling like I'm there during the scene,
Right.
And I do like to be able to drop it. I don't want to hold on to it beforehand or after.
Yeah.
But when it comes on, I want the triggers of the scene to actually trigger emotion in me. It just generates behavior that that more interesting behavior.
Right. It has to be emotionally draining though, especially if you're doing multiple takes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a yes. One thing about Infinity Chamber, which was, it was not only me, as you. I appreciate the compliment, but there was another. There was Howard was there, and Travis the director was doing a lot of work.
Yeah, of course.
But it was a challenge. It was one of the more challenging things in an exhaustion sense, because you get used to as an actor to being a certain rhythm, where you do yours, and then they do the other side, right. They shoot the other side. Yeah. And also usually there's a big lighting change. And so there's lots of space. There's a certain amount of space between your takes, and certain amount of space between your scenes. And that film was pre-lit and all on me. So there were no gaps. It was like, okay, we're doing this scene where you're super angry, and now we're doing this scene where you're really sad. It's just like, just right straight through and no breaks. And, so it it was exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only bet. I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. You like really had to carry it. Of course, you had some great actors to work off of. The young woman who played Gabby was fantastic,
Yeah.
and the gentleman that played the mentor character in the other cell was awesome. And of course,
Cajardo is so good. Yeah.
yeah, and then the voice acting of Howard was
Yeah,
was
yeah.
spot on and had a lot of life to it. So of course, but yeah, you're the guy on screen for most of the film.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. Now, has that acting influenced your writing? Because I tell writers to get out there and try an improv class, because I find it can really improve dialogue. So have you found that your technique of acting, using that experience, does it kind of inform your writing a little bit? Does it help you add and kind of build out characters or story?
I think that's undoubtedly true. I guess I've seen it more the other direction.
Really?
But there's a constant flow between the two. Being a writer really helps as an actor, because it helps you just like it is something a lot of actors have to learn, is how to break down a script. And what breaking down a script means is what you're really doing as an actor is you're going, okay, what is actually happening in this line? What is happening in this line? Like, what is happening in this line? But as a writer, it's a little bit more automatic. You still have to do that, but it's a little bit more automatic to go, oh, I understand the structure of the scene. Or you can be like, I don't understand the structure of the scene. How do I bridge the gap? And that's a writing process. All actors have to do it. But if you're a trained writer, you're already doing it. It's like, I say this here and I say this here, and I don't know why I say this here. I can ask the director, but I can also try and tell a story for the character in the back of their head that makes a sense for why I got to here,
Yeah. So we're talking like subtext. And I think actors, they call it like a through line. So you're really trying to find kind of the meat or the hidden meaning behind the dialogue that you can perform. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I admire your job. I don't know. I mean, I did like a smidge of acting, and I was like, I just had to be the mean, quiet guy, and it was easy.
Right.
So I couldn't imagine like having to learn a ton of lines and then having to change the performance every scene, which to me sounds crazy. Like you do your line read, and then they do another take, and they want you to have a different approach of the line read.
That is my favorite part about acting. Like, that's why I'm a person who actually loves a lot of takes, because I'm like, I could do it another 1,000 ways. Give me more,
Really?
So that's the fun part. That's the fun part
awesome.
of acting to me. Yeah.
All the different choices that you can make.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So do you have any tips for any writers out there or any actors out there that are getting into writing that you feel has really helped your process in filmmaking?
I have to say my career is fairly non-standard, so I don't know if my tips are going to be what everyone's.
Oh no, I want to dive into a non-standard career then. If you're going to open up that doorway, what does that mean?
Well, I'm not saying I don't want to do mainstream stuff. I just have kind of always pursued what I wanted to do in the moment, independently of the career-oriented stuff. So, for instance, I a few years ago, I got rid of my manager and my agent as an actor, because I was just like, I've got all this stuff I'm doing over here. They have nothing to do with it,
Right.
And it's just it's a kind of there's a kind of childishness about it, I'll say, like an immaturity about it. So it's just like, I don't want to like spend several hours a day auditioning all day, right? So I would rather just write myself a role, or get my friend to do a role, or and get to go act. And the same thing with the pursuit writing. I haven't pursued it as much. I'm still not against it. It's just my career has really been writing what I make.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been.
So what do you recommend then for I guess someone going in a non-standard direction?
I would say this for everybody. I mean, you don't have to go as far as I've gone with it, but I would just say this for everybody. It's important to be happy,
Yeah.
So like, if you decide I want this as a goal, X goal, and it's going to take me 10 years, but the 10 years is going to suck. It's just not going to work. You're not going to do it. You're not going to pull it off.
You'll burn out.
Yeah. So you've got to, and this is what I realized as an actor. I was here for a couple years in LA, and I was auditioning, and I just wasn't happy. I just wasn't having fun. So I started writing stuff for myself. It's like, I got to live,
Yeah.
and I want to do things I want to be doing.
Your big key is to find happiness, which I actually haven't had a guest say that yet. I love that.
Well, it's really necessary for creativity,
Yeah.
Creativity is letting this stuff that's inside just come up without judgment and stuff. And you have to have some kind of like comfort and safety and enjoyment and love, and like all that has to be there. So it's a pretty important part of it.
I think it's exceptionally brave to go it on your own and seek this out and make it happen, because there are so many writers and actors out there that the goal is an agent and a manager. Like that's the goal. And they believe they're going to get that agent and their manager and it's going to change their life and things are going to happen for them. And that's not necessarily true. You can get a manager and go on all the auditions or write all the specs in the world and nothing still happens.
Yeah, I mean, that was just part of my experience. I had several agents and several managers as an actor. And every time you're like, okay, this is going to be great. And then it's like, no, they're not, that's not. And every actor's had this experience. Like, oh, the agent's not doing that much for me until something happens. So that's not, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. And I'm not against having an agent or manager. I would take one. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but that's not the solution, right?
Right.
That's not the solution. And ultimately in this business, it's not like other businesses. Like you can't really guarantee you're going to make it. You can't like be like, you can't even guarantee you're going to make a living,
Right.
Much less be really successful at it. There's just too many people trying to do it,
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're really good at it, you can't guarantee it. It requires luck. It requires breaks. It requires a whole bunch of other things. So if you're going to go on something where you can't guarantee the ending, it better be enjoyable in between, or else you're just not going to live the life you want to be living. So.
I think that's really great advice. I think finding your joy in what you're doing is really important. And then, the whole suffering artist thing. I don't necessarily know if that's the path you have to go. Like my goal has always just been to help everybody, and really help educate. And I love that. And I get to I get to do that. And then still pursue my own successes. And I've been very blessed. And so if you could find whatever you feel is your love or joy, if it's writing that script for yourself and going on making it with your friends, that's great. But I agree again that just getting that agent, getting that manager can help, but it doesn't mean that should be the goal. And I think it's a beautiful advice, Chris. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Well, so the Tangle is available where?
It's on Amazon. It's on Google Play. It's on Tubi, I believe.
Oh,
maybe
cool.
A couple other places.
Yeah, Tubi's an upcoming platform. They're starting to really build out their library. That brings us to our secret code, which is Tangle. Use that at the Successful Screenwriter Facebook page on the giveaway tab or at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/podcast. Use the secret code Tangle for 5 free entries. So, do you have anything on the future?
Well, I have a short film coming out that I'm actually really, really proud of. I co-wrote it, and it was directed by somebody else. It's called Behemoth, and I really can't wait to share that with people. It's one of those roles where the performance really excites me.
Awesome.
So it was fun. And I've just finished. I have a draft of my next feature that I want to direct and write, and it's a meditation thriller.
A meditation thriller. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, I don't really have a good log line yet to pitch.
All right,
like I haven't worked it out, but that's the best hook for it. It's like a sci-fi. It's like imagine like Altered States, or one of those kinds of movies with a little bit of fantasy sci-fi in there. But I have a really extensive meditation practice and knowledge, and so it's pretty detailed and gritty in how the meditation process is like affecting the main hook is that there's a technology that's like boosting their meditation practice. So it's speeding up the whole process of the meditation path.
Oh, that's interesting. Are you working in like DMT and things like that?
There may be I think there's one spot where I've thought about adding in a little. It's essentially like an evil scientist, not really an evil scientist. It's more subtle than that, but like a scientist that's gone off the rails a little bit. And so, yeah, he may be adding a little drugs into the system at some point. Yeah, I don't think it's in this draft, but it's definitely in my notes as a possibility.
Yeah, I've done meditating for over 20 years as well.
Oh, cool, very cool.
Yeah. So I've had crazy experiences. And hopefully I'm a slightly better person than before I started.
Right, yeah.
Well, Chris, I wanted to say thanks again for coming on this show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share in your social media where you can tag us at The Successful Screenwriter.